everyone, this is Shuen, aka Shoe Puff Creations, and I am so excited to be sharing my first video in my 12 Days of Interactive December Dailies video series. Today I'm going to be sharing how to create this fun interactive shaker page that is going to be a double-sided title page in my December daily album. So I'm starting out with 2 pieces of vellum here, and I also have this assorted die cut pack from the Simply Stated Designs December monthly kit, and that kit is currently not available, but it will be available on the first day of December on their website, and I believe they do sell out quite fast, so I'll leave a link down in the description box below to their website if you'd like to sign up for newsletter updates. And pretty much I'm going to be making an undercut page with this large wreath piece here, and that piece is going to serve as the right edge of my title page. And because this piece has, there's one piece that's mirrored, I am going to be backing them with each other and then sandwiching the vellum shaker pouch in between, so that I can have that edge as the cut edge for the right side of my page here. And it'll kind of be like an undercut page, so you can see the pattern paper behind this later on. So I'm starting off by cutting my vellum pages down to 7 inches wide by 8¼ inches tall. That's the same size as outside my page protectors in my 6x8 album. And I'm going to take one of those vellum pieces and trace around this wreath shape on the vellum piece with some pencil. And that's just so that I can have a bit of a guide as to where I'm going to do my stitching, because I am going to use a sewing machine to stitch this pocket closed. Now I'm just centering the wreath piece here. I do want to have it slightly less than 7 inches wide so that I can see some pattern paper peeking out over on the right side. And I'm not tracing like all the way around this very intricate die cut piece, just kind of making marks here and there to give me a general idea of where I need to make my stitch marks. And towards the bottom of the page where the wreath part gets a bit skinnier is where I really need to pay attention to where those leaves are, just because I do want the stitching for this part of the stitch marks to be hidden by the die cut wreath. I also have a large acrylic piece here from Color Cast Designs. This piece says December 2022, and it's part of their Merry and Bright collection for this year. And I just love how that bright red really pops from amongst these cooler toned reds in the ephemera pack from Simply Stated. And I'll be using some more Color Cast Design pieces later on in this video as well. So you'll see that I've made a pencil mark there in between those 2 outer edges of the wreath where I want my stitching to be. And I'm going to take this off screen to stitch together using my sewing machine. So I'm going to just stitch together the 2 vellum pieces along that wreath line, as well as the bottom edge, as well as the left edge there, just inside where those holes for the binder rings are. And I am going to leave the top edge open for now so that I can stuff some sequins in later on. And you'll see that I just used some purple low tack tape to stick these 2 pieces of vellum together so that it's a bit easier to run them both through the sewing machine at the same time. And here I'm back with my stitching all complete. I used some gold metallic thread for this because I just love how that looks with like all of my Christmas projects really. And you can see that my stitching isn't great. I am quite a beginner at using a sewing machine, so my stitch lines are kind of messy, but I think that just adds to kind of the rustic look of this shaker page here. And now I'm just taking an eraser and erasing all of those pencil marks off of the vellum. And fortunately, vellum doesn't hold pencil marks very easily. Like I found it really easy to erase all of those marks. And then you just have to make sure to brush off all of the eraser shavings before you move on to the next step. Now that my 2 vellum pieces are sewn together, I can go ahead and remove that purple tape from the right side. And I'm going to be filling my shaker pouch with some sequins from Buttons Galore and More. These are the Christmas Carnival pack, and I like the little foil trees that they have in there, as well as the cooler toned greens that really go well with the cooler toned greens in the Simply Stated line. I'm dumping in about 2 tablespoons worth of sequins here because I do want to make sure that this has a very satisfying shake when you shake this page. And the reason why I love making shaker pages out of vellum on both sides is because sometimes when you make shaker pouches with cardstock and let's say like either vellum or acetate, but you have cardstock as one of those elements to sandwich your shaker bits in, I find that the cardstock almost makes the shaker like too sturdy, and so the shaker bits kind of don't move around as freely as they would if you made a shaker out of vellum on both sides of the shaker pouch. And then this way you have that see-through effect where you can see all those sequins shaking around from either the front side of the page or the back side of the page. So now that I have all of my sequins in, I just took this off screen again to do that last bit of stitching to close the top of the pocket shut. And now I'm going to put adhesive onto the back of this wreath die cut shape so that I can adhere that onto my vellum. And I used my Tombow Mono permanent adhesive tape runner here, just trying to get into all of those nooks and crannies because I don't want any part of this wreath to potentially peel off the page when I'm flipping through my album later on. And I am going through with this Zig two-way glue pen just to get in all of those tiny nooks and crannies of all of those leaves, going right up to the edge if I can. Before I adhere this wreath piece down, I'm just going to trim off that excess bit of vellum on the right side of my shaker pouch here, and so that will save a bit of fussy cutting time later on because then you don't have to cut all the way around this wreath piece. I do have some vellum sticking out towards the bottom that I will trim off later on. But then I have this other wreath piece that I can adhere to the back of the other wreath piece. And I love that this is a perfect match to cover up the back of that half of the wreath because that does hide my stitched line perfectly, especially because it was kind of a wonky stitch line, so I didn't want it to show through. And same thing here, I just want to make sure that this wreath is completely covered with adhesive and just using my Zig two-way glue pen again to go right up to the edges of that cut line on the die cut piece, just to make sure that this doesn't come apart in my album later on. Now I'm going to match up the edges of the die cut wreath as best I can. And I love that the top and bottom parts of this wreath are just overhanging the edges of my shaker pouch just a tiny bit. The album is tall enough that this whole entire piece will still be in the boundaries of the album so that none of it is going to be poking out from underneath your album or on top of your album. But I think this just provides a more organic look to have the wreath kind of hanging over the edges of the shaker pouch as opposed to trimming them so that they're flush against the top and bottom edges. I stopped the camera after that and forgot to turn it on again for adhering the acrylic piece onto my shaker pouch, but I made sure to use dry adhesive instead of wet adhesive because if you use wet adhesive, then sometimes that will warp the vellum and cause it to buckle. So I used my tape runner again and just ran that across the back of the acrylic piece. And the acrylic piece is large enough that some of the pieces will get covered with adhesive. And I just framed the bottom of that acrylic piece with a wood veneer heart from Color Cast Designs November kit, as well as a couple more of those acrylic hearts. Those are from the Merry and Bright confetti mix that was part of the Merry and Bright collection. The back of this shaker page is going to go directly before my reason why for my December daily album, so I wanted to create kind of like a cozy scene on the back of this shaker page here, just pulling in some more wood veneer pieces from Color Cast Designs. These are from the Holly Jolly pack, and again I'm just adhering these with some more tape runner adhesive. I was just looking back at my past December daily videos, and I found it funny that the first video of my 12 Days of Interactive December Dailies video series has always been a shaker page. But I've made shaker pages for 3 years now, and they're all different, and they were all made in different ways. And I think that just shows how much I love shaker pages and having them as kind of like a front and center feature for these really special albums. So if you're looking for other ideas for December daily title pages, or if you're looking for different ways of making shaker pouches, I will leave those links to my past videos in the description box below. But as usual, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe for more December daily process videos. Thanks so much for watching.